Hey everybody, just coming on here really quick, although it's not going to be quick, just to give you guys kind of an update. As most of you know, back on June 23rd, Maya had what's known as an ALTE, or apparent life-threatening event. She stopped breathing in her sleep. We have since then found out what caused it. I'll get to that in a little bit. She spent 3 days in the hospital in Sioux Falls. We came home. She was fine for quite a while, and then she actually did have another life-threatening event similar to that. So the past 30 days have been really, really traumatic and exciting for us. She's had a lot of doctor's appointments because of all of this. I don't know if Tracy can show you my logbook here.
It's upside down.
This is just the month of July, and it's just jam-packed full of appointments for Maya. That's a little bit more than normal for us. So yeah, it's been crazy. I just wanted to touch base with y'all and let you know what all of her doctors are saying and whatnot. So I'll just kind of get started with that. After we got home from her hospital stay in Sioux Falls, we did have a teleconference with Mayo Clinic, their aerodigestive team. Aerodigestive is basically ENT, GI, and pulmonology all in one, and it's a team effort. Their team suggested several scopes and various tests for Maya to do. Unfortunately, insurance refuses to send us to Mayo Clinic. So we have to fight with the doctors here in Fargo to get anything done, which has been quite a pain. But we're getting there. So we have the suggestions of Mayo Clinic, and we're just kind of working everything out. On July 10th, we saw ear, nose, and throat doctor. He was rather concerned about Maya's events. He wants to do laryngoscopy and bronchoscopy to find out if there's anything going wrong in her airways. I don't even really know entirely what they'll find. One thing that we have questioned in the past is whether or not she might have a nasopharyngeal cleft. So I guess that will be answered when we do these scopes.
Okay, so what is that?
Nasopharyngeal cleft, as far as I understand it, is way at the back of the throat where the soft palate is. There can be a part that wasn't formed properly, so kind of a hole or a deviation in that area. In Maya's case, we know that anything, whether it be saliva or food that makes it into her esophagus, she has a tendency to push into her nasal cavities, and that's much more common with kids with this nasopharyngeal cleft. So that's why we're questioning it. If that happens to be the case, depending on the severity, it could mean surgery, it could mean just wait and see how she develops. There could be any number of things for that, but we're just kind of waiting and seeing how that turns out. We don't have anything scheduled yet because we're doing a group collaborative with everybody, but I'll let y'all know when that happens. So that was ENT. He didn't have any answers as to why Maya had stopped breathing, but he agreed with her pulmonologist on several things. So again, they're all working together. He did order immediately a sleep study for Maya, which actually took place the very next day. We happened to get a cancellation in the schedule, and we were supposed to go to Sioux Falls, but again, insurance is a bunch of jerks and would refuse to send us. And we just happened to get a last-minute cancellation. So she had the sleep study on July 11th. She slept great there. And we actually just got the results of it today. And she has no sleep apneas. It was as close to perfect as a child could get, is what her sleep doctor said. So basically, what that means for these life-threatening events is that even though they're happening in her sleep, they're not sleep-related. It just happens to happen at that time. Nothing within her sleep is actually causing it. So, sleep study went great. Sleep doctor was incredible. He's so nice. He's very worried about Maya and would really like to see answers. I kind of complained to him about not getting some answers from other doctors, and it sounds like he's going to be lighting a fire under their butts. So I'm really excited for that he's working for us and wants the best for Maya. The next thing was, she's sleeping over here and snoring. Next thing was on July 13th, we went to Grand Forks and saw neurology, because we still weren't sure if the first event was seizure related or actually breathing related. The EEG during the hospital stay did not show seizures, but we had a clinical observation of seizures while she was having those events. So basically what we learned with neurology was that when she has these events, her oxygen levels drop so low that, again, it's depriving her brain of oxygen. It's another hypoxic event. And as it deprives her brain of oxygen, it triggers seizures. It's not something that needs to be medicated unless it happens frequently. But right now it's just kind of a waiting and seeing how things go. One bad thing did happen with neurology. Maya actually had a really massive reflux while she was there and choked on it pretty badly. The next day, she came down with a really high-grade fever and really congested and was diagnosed with aspiration pneumonia. So she's been very sick this past month. She's still very congested from that aspiration pneumonia. She was on 10 days of antibiotics. About 10 days, not even 10 days later, 4 days later, she had another life-threatening event where she stopped breathing. I happened to be in Fargo that day. My husband rushed her to the emergency room. The emergency room here in town did nothing for her. The only good thing that came of that was that our favorite doctor was there. But the nurses, as soon as my husband walked in, with her oxygen levels being at 75%, just very low and very dangerous, they slapped a mask on her. My husband was trying to suction the phlegm out of her throat. They made him put a mask on her, took her back to her room, and they left him for an hour. So we have a lot of work to do with trying to speak with administration on that, because that type of thing cannot happen again. It's by sheer luck or God or whatever you want to call it that my husband was able to get her stabilized. If he hadn't been able to, she wouldn't be here today. So it's just great that he knew what to do and was able to do it. But yeah, she's really struggled. We've all really struggled. I know all the kids have seen her have these events now. And quite a few of them have expressed to me that they've had nightmares, that they've, thought that their baby sister wasn't going to live. And it's hard to take. We try to just comfort them and explain to them what's going on and help them through it as best we can, but it's really hard. Yeah, Tracy, how do you handle that?
Not well. No further questions.
I hear you. Also, earlier this month, we saw gastroenterology, which is, for lack of better terms, is the stomach doctor. Mayo Clinic had suggested various scopes through him as well. Unfortunately, this GI doctor and I are not getting along and have really had a big fight. He finally, as of last week, has agreed to do a pH probe, which would basically measure whether Maya's refluxing and how bad it is, the frequency, things like that. So that's good that he's agreed to do that. But they also wanted a EGD, which is basically an endoscopy, which would look at the esophagus, or the tube that your food goes through into your stomach. It would look to see if there's any malformations, any damage from reflux, if there's any reason that maybe the epiglottis or the opening to the stomach isn't closing. It would look for possibility of ulcers. I mean, all sorts of different things, and he absolutely refuses to do it right now. We are still fighting with various doctors trying to get him on board with it. So if you think about it, please pray that he just changes his mind all of a sudden and says, yep, all right, she's going under, we're going to do it anyway. If not, I don't know how we're going to go about that. So, yeah, just really be praying about that. Couple days ago, almost a week ago, it'll be a week tomorrow, we had another incident happen with Maya. I decided to take the kids to the park in Fergus Falls, and Maya was going down the tube slide like she'd done hundreds of times before. This time she happened to kick her leg up just right, and as you can see, she now has a nifty boot that she has to wear. We believe that there's a spiral fracture somewhere. We don't know exactly where. We don't know exactly how bad it is. But just based on the pain that she's exhibiting and not wanting to put any weight on her foot and still not seeing anything on x-ray, we're treating it as a spiral fracture, and we'll get new x-rays on August 5th and go from there. I have no idea how long she'll be in the boot for. We'll just kind of have to play that by ear. She's still not putting any weight on it. It's been almost a week, and she's refusing to put any weight on it. She wants to stand desperately, but she doesn't want any weight on it. So it's a struggle for sure. All right. We're getting near the end. Thanks for hanging with me. Yesterday, Maya saw genetics for the first time in a year. She sees them every year. They don't really have any new recommendations right now or anything that they can think of to test for, but they are very concerned with these new symptoms that she's been having, the fact that she's got a sudden fracture, and she still has some definite malformations throughout her body, like the craniosynostosis of her head. She has what they call pigeon chest, so her chest kind of sticks out a little bit. She's had a malformed toe. So they're taking all these things into account, and they want to rerun her West testing, or whole exome sequencing. They want to rerun that again and see if we get any new answers, because genetics is changing every day. They're learning new things every day, so maybe we'll get something this time. Until we hear back from them, and it could be up to 12 weeks, we just kind of keep playing things by ear and going on as we are. Also yesterday we saw her pulmonologist. That's her lung doctor. He basically told us what's been happening with her with these life-threatening events. What he believes it is that she is prone to mucus plugs in her lungs. So if you imagine like a ball of phlegm just sticking in your lung, it basically collapses that area of the lung. You can breathe, but you're not moving the air efficiently. So in her case, she's turning purple because the air is not moving through her the way it's supposed to. She loses her oxygen levels, and it can become very life-threatening very quickly. It happens literally out of nowhere. She can be fine 1 second and dying the next. There is no cure for it. He said that chances are it will happen again and again and again in her life because of her health concerns. It's just something that we have to watch out for. He did say that the best things to hopefully reduce the frequency is to, maintain her suctioning, get all of that liquid and fluids out of her mouth, keep up on her reflux meds, and of course do her chest physiotherapy. That's the vest that goes around her chest and shakes everything loose. So we need to do that 2 times a day, if not more. But the reality is that we could have many more of these events. And we never know when they're going to strike. So we just have to kind of be on the ready at all times. She really can't be left alone. So when she's sleeping, she's on a pulse oximeter. Because again, it will more frequently happen when she's sleeping because her muscles are so relaxed and they can't fight to breathe properly. So the chances of it happening in her sleep are much greater. It's not sleep related, it just happens that way. He's also ordered various tests for her. He's ordered new suction catheters for her machine. These suction catheters will allow us to get way further back in her throat, even almost to this area right here, and get the stuff that pools there, which will be phenomenal to get that out. She'll breathe better and just sound better in general, and hopefully keep it from going into her nose. He's trying to get us a new suction machine for at-home use. The one we have right now just travels with us everywhere we go, and that's great, but it doesn't have quite the power that a home suctioning unit would have. So he would like us to have that and be able to get more deeply into the lungs, help trigger coughs to break up some of that stuff in there and whatnot. And then he ordered a chest CT for she actually had this morning, and that is to check for bronchiectasis. And I know I'm not pronouncing that properly, but basically it's damage to the lungs from reflux or bacteria, just bacteria kind of just sitting in the lungs and scarring it. And depending on what that shows, I don't have the results yet, but depending on what that shows may change our course of action, may change medications. We know it will at the very least help with insurance regulations and getting her things for the pulse oximeter and things for her oxygen, and things for her chest percussion vest. As much as you don't want to see something like that on your child on a CT scan, if we did get those results and they were positive, it would help drastically with everything that she needs. So it's kind of a catch-22, what do you want? I don't want her to be sick at all, but I want her to have the help that she needs. So that's pulmonology. And lastly, she saw her sleep doctor today. And again, he said the sleep study was perfect. Everything looked great with that. He is hoping to get some more tests done for her through the various other doctors, and I believe I'll be getting a phone call on Thursday to find out if and when they're going to schedule all these tests. So again, just be in prayer that things move swiftly and doctors are in agreement, and especially that GI comes around and does his part willingly. And then pray for her on August 5th. She goes back to orthopedic surgery. She will be checked again for hip dysplasia, scoliosis, and she'll have x-rays of her foot again to find out if there was indeed a fracture. So yeah, really, really busy couple months here. You know, it all started with surgery back at the beginning of June, and it's been chaotic. We are exhausted here. None of us are sleeping. Yeah, it's a wild ride.
She's the only one that's sleeping.
Yeah, she's the only one that sleeps at all. But you know what? She is worth every bit of it. We wouldn't trade her for the world. She's our little miracle. And we just hope that you love her as much as we do. So, all right. Peace out.